students. Welcome back to all of you. Today I'll start a new chapter for class 10 A, B and C, and the subject that I'm going to do is geography, and the chapter that I'm going to start today is agriculture in India. So please do pay attention. Now let us start with the term agriculture. What is agriculture? Now in a very simple term we can define agriculture as a systematic practice of tilling and cultivating the soil, raising crops, rearing animals and practicing fishing. When all these are combined together, we can define it as agriculture. So once again I repeat, agriculture is a systematic practice of tilling and cultivating the soil, raising crops, rearing animals and practicing fishing is termed as agriculture. Now agriculture is derived from two Latin words, ager and culture. Ager means land and culture means cultivation. Therefore, agriculture is the cultivation of the land. Cultivation of the land. Now let us go and see the importance of agriculture in our country. What is the importance of agriculture in our country? Firstly, agriculture is the backbone of our economy. More than 70% of the population are directly or indirectly dependent on agriculture. Therefore, it is the backbone of our economy. More than 50% of the national revenue comes from agriculture. More than 50% of the national revenue comes from agriculture. So it is a backbone of our economy. Number two, agriculture provides food and fodder for human beings and animals. That's why it's so very important. It provides food for all of us. It provides fodder for the cattle. Besides that, it also provides raw materials for many industries like the cotton industry, textile industry, edible oil industry and so on. See? Besides providing us food and fodder for the humans and cattle, it also provides raw materials for many industries like cotton, textile industry, jute industry, then we have rubber industry, then edible oil industry, sugar industry and so on. That's number two. That is why agriculture is so very important in our country. Number three is that it provides employment to millions of people. I told you more than 70% of our people are directly or indirectly dependent on agriculture. Therefore, it provides employment to millions of people. Number four, it also consumes a lot of industrial products. It also consumes a lot of industrial products like, for instance, harvesters, tractors, chemical fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides. All these are used in the field. So therefore, because of the practice of agriculture, these industries are thriving, are progressing. Therefore, agriculture is a consumer of many industrial products like tractors, harvesters, chemical fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides and so on, and the different tools that are used in the field for the cultivation of the land. That's another very important point. And then we come to the last aspect here. It brings a lot of foreign exchange. It brings a lot of foreign exchange to our country. When we sell products like tea, coffee, jute, when we export it to the other countries, we earn a lot of foreign exchange, and that is why agriculture is very important in our country. Now let us see the characteristics. Characteristics. What are the characteristics of the Indian agriculture? First one is that Indian agriculture depends on the monsoon. See, Indian agriculture depends on the monsoons. Monsoons plays a very important role in our country, especially in the agricultural sector. We get rainfall from June, July, August and September. That is the time when we experience monsoon season. That is the time when we get the highest rainfall in the year for these 4 months. So therefore, Indian agriculture is so much dependent on the monsoons. But then what happens? At times these monsoons are delayed. We cannot predict them. They are unpredictable. Monsoons are unpredictable. We cannot predict them. Sometimes they are very early, sometimes they are very late, sometimes we get heavy rainfall, sometimes we get very less rainfall. Therefore, we cannot predict the rainfall. See? That is one aspect. Number two is that because India has a varied climate and soil. See, number two. Varied soil and climate. Point number one, characteristic of Indian what say agriculture is that we are too much dependent on the monsoons. Number two, we have varied soil and climatic conditions. Because our country is so big, the different areas in our country have different types of soil, and we also experience different types of climatic conditions, because of which we grow varieties of crops. We grow varieties of crops like rice, wheat, sugarcane, tobacco, jute, cotton, and so on. That is the second characteristics of the Indian agriculture. Number three is that we have both the tropical and the temperate crops grown in our country. Both tropical and temperate type of crops are grown. Tropical means which are below the equator, below the Tropic of Cancer, towards the southern part of our country, experiences tropical type of climate, very hot, humid. And temperate means above the Tropic of Cancer. So we have both the type of crops which are grown in the southern part of our country as well as in the northern part of our country. That is point number 3. Then we have small and fragmented lands. The lands are very small and fragmented. Small and fragmented. See, point number 4. Small and fragmented land in our country. That's number 4. Then if you go to the 5th one, we practice subsistence type of agriculture. See, point number 5 is that we mostly practice subsistence type of agriculture. That means what happens here? In the subsistence type of agriculture, farmers themselves grow crops. And whatever the crops they grow, they use it for their own consumption. That is termed as subsistence type of agriculture is practiced in a country where the farmers grow crops and the crops which are grown in the field are consumed by the family members themselves. That's point number 5. And then we come to the 6th one. We have 3 growing seasons. One is Kharif. Number 2 is Rabi crop. And number 3 is Zaid. Okay, so these are the 3 seasons. See, we have the Kharif crops are grown in our country. We have the Rabi crops and the Zaid crops. Now, when is the Kharif crop grown in our country? Now, the Kharif crop is basically grown from the month of June to October. June to October, and the crops that are grown are mainly rice, maize, okay, and also cotton. Rice, maize, and cotton. So as I was telling you, we have 3 growing seasons. We have 3 types of crops grown in our country. The Kharif crops, which are grown from June to October, and the crops that are grown are rice. Then we have maize and cotton. Then we have the Rabi crop. Now this Rabi crop is a crop which is grown slightly in the later part of the year, in the winter season, slightly in the colder season. They start from November to April. November to April. And then what grows here? Here basically we have is wheat, gram, tobacco and mustard. Wheat, gram, mustard and tobacco. So these are the crops that are grown in the Rabi season from November to April. Then for a short duration, mainly from the month of April to May, we have the Zaid season where only vegetables and fruits are grown. So this is the Zaid season. So please keep in mind, basically we have 3 growing seasons, or we have 3 types of crops grown in our country. One is the Kharif crop, which is grown in the summertime, from June to, it goes till October. Then we have the Rabi crop, Kharif crop, where we have crops like rice, maize and cotton. Then if you go to the Rabi crop, which goes slightly in the winter months, colder part, November to April. Here we have crops like wheat, gram, mustard. Okay, these are the type of crops that are grown there. And then we have a Zaid crop that is grown from between the month of April and May. And the crops that are grown in this in these months are mainly fruits and vegetables. Now, let us go a little further. Now, what happens is, because our country's population is increasing year by year, every day. We had a lot of problems in the crops production in the past, and a lot of times we had to import from other countries because it was not being sufficient for our people. Therefore, what happened is, the government desperately wanted to innovate a new process whereby they could increase the production of the food grains. And therefore, they came up with this idea called as the Green Revolution, which the credit goes to Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, who is also called as the father of the Green Revolution. Now, after this Green Revolution, what happened is that, the production of the crops in our country increased tremendously. And therefore, we had enough crops grown in our country, whereby we could even export to other countries. Surplus was grown. Now, how did this function? What was the main agendas behind this Green Revolution? What was the main structure behind the Green Revolution? How could we grow such a lot of crops from the same land? Earlier, we were not able to grow so much, but on the same piece of land, after the Green Revolution was adopted, what happened? We could increase the production. How did that take place? Now, there are various aspects keeping in mind to look in this aspect, to look into this. The first one is that, what happened is, in the Green Revolution, they used very high-yielding varieties of seeds. High-yielding varieties of seeds was used, because of which when they grew in the field, their production was very good, because the quality was very good. See, whenever we buy something, we always judge on its quality. We see the quality. If you buy a product which is of better quality, it lasts for a longer duration, it gives a better satisfaction. See? So similarly, what happened is, in the Green Revolution process, what happened? The farmers were encouraged, or they were supplied high quality seeds, whereby when they were grown in the field, the production was very good. Number two, they started to use a lot of, fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides, all these were used to make sure that the crops were not destroyed as they were growing. Number three, the irrigation system was built up. A better system of irrigation was built, whereby there was continuous supply of water to the field. We know that India has rainfall for only 4 months, June, July, August and September. But then the remaining months is dry. So how do we supply water? A good system of irrigation facilities was provided to the field, to the farmers, whereby they had continuous supply of water throughout the year, and thereby they could grow crops. A good irrigation system was built. Machines were used. Machines were used in the farms which are very big. Machines were used instead of labor. When people themselves worked, it took a long time, but when machines were used, the work became faster, better. So machines were used, better quality seeds, irrigation facility was built up, chemical fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides were built, technical know-how. Farmers were educated. Farmers were educated in the process of growing crops. See? Technical know-how was provided. See, incentives were given by the government. Because of all these things, what happened? The production of crops in our country grew very, very high. It was very, very huge production. There was a booming growth of crops in our country because of the Green Revolution. Now, we have some problems as well in our country. What are the problems of Indian agriculture? Now, let's see the first one. The problems of Indian agriculture. Now, we just saw the characteristics. Okay, now let us see the problems. Problems. What are the problems? The first one is excessive pressure on land. Excessive pressure on land. The population of the country is increasing at such an alarming rate. Now, we are going through a phase called as the population explosion. So much of a growth in the population. And therefore what happens? There is tremendous pressure on the land. And therefore what happens? When there is too much of pressure on the land, the production per person that is actually to be got from the field is decreased. See? So excessive pressure of the people on the land. Because of which what happens? The growth rate in agriculture becomes very low. The growth rate of agriculture becomes very low because of the excessive pressure of population on the land. Number 2 is unreliable rainfall. Unreliable rainfall. I told you just a few minutes ago. The monsoons are unpredictable. We cannot predict the monsoons. Sometimes they come in early, sometimes they come in late, sometimes they bring such a lot of rainfall, sometimes they bring such a less amount of rainfall. Therefore, we are dependent on the monsoons. So the monsoons are unpredictable. We cannot predict them. Point number 2. Number 3 is small land holding. Small land holding. Small land holdings. See, because of the law of inheritance, what happens? The farmers have to divide the lands among the sons, and then the lands get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And then what happens? On the small lands, the production also goes on decreasing. See, small land holdings is also another problem of Indian agriculture because the lands are constantly divided. See, fragmentation of land takes place. Number 4, low productivity. Low productivity is another point to be noted in the Indian agriculture. Very low production. See, farmers are not aware. See, lack of education regarding these aspects, regarding the growth of crops. See, and also because of the economy, because the farmers are not economically very well off. So they are not able to use better machines, they are not able to use better techniques in the growth of crops. Because of what happens? There is low production of crops in the field. Then poor techniques of production, same thing. Because of lack of income, because the farmers are not financially well off. So therefore they are unable to use better techniques in the field, whereby again the production becomes very less. Then lack of mechanized farming. Farmers do not use the modern methods of farming. They still stick to the traditional methods. Because of which again the growth of crops in our country is less. The amount of crops that should be actually grown becomes very less. And then problems of finance is also another very important aspect for the Indian farmers. As I was just telling you, most of the farmers are economically very weak, and therefore what happens? They go to the money lenders to borrow money during the growing season. If the crops grow well, if there's a boom in the crops, if there's a bumper crop in that year, then the farmers easily repay the debt taken from the money lenders. But at times what happens is, when the crops fail, when famine takes place, when the crops are destroyed, it is at that time that the farmers are in big trouble. They are unable to pay the money taken from the money lenders. And then at times what happens? The lands are taken by the money lenders. A lot of these practice was prevalent in the past, but now things have changed. The governments have brought up different institutions whereby the farmers can approach these institutions and also borrow money, get help, get subsidies, whereby they can be self-sufficient, at least during the growing season. So these are the help that are given by the government. Now let us see the steps taken by the government to encourage the farmers or the farmers in our country. The first one is that it provides seeds, high quality seeds. It provides very good quality seeds to the farmers. This is one way in which the government of India is helping the farmers in our country. Number 2, the country has built up fair price shops. The government also monitors the price of the crops that are grown by the farmers. See? The agricultural price commissions are set up whereby whatever crops the farmers grow, and when they sell it in the market, they get a decent price for the crops, so that they are not cheated. In the past, what happens? Many of the farmers were cheated. All the hard work the farmers had to do, and when they went to sell their product in the market, they were paid very less. But then now what happens? The government has set up fair price commissions and fair price shops, whereby when the farmers grow crops and when they sell it, they get a decent price. They get the price that they are entitled to, so that they are not cheated. So this is another way in which the government has also encouraged and supported the farmers of our country. Because we know that most of the farmers, many of the farmers in the remote areas are uneducated. So therefore, they can be very easily cheated. So because of these fair price commissions and fair price shops that are set by the government, and the constant monitoring by the government, what happens is the farmers are not cheated and they are given their due share of price that they have grown. Whatever crops they have grown, they get the standard price that they are supposed to be paid. Then even the government has also set up banks like the NABARD, National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development, NABARD. They have also set up cooperative societies whereby they can approach these societies and also practice agriculture, take money and lend more money and thereby, practice agriculture. Then we have another one, that is, they have started giving subsidies. Subsidies are given to the farmers. Okay. Then free fertilizers, even at times electricity is also given to the people in the remote rural areas to support and encourage the farmers. So these are some of the ways in which the government has supported the farmers of our country so that they can grow their crops without much difficulties. Now let us see the types of agriculture in our country. Okay, types of agriculture. Types of agriculture. Types of agriculture. Now basically we have different types of agriculture. The first one we have is the shifting agriculture. Shifting agriculture. Now this type of agriculture is not practiced anymore. The government has brought a ban to this practice. Now in this type of agriculture, what happens in the ancient times, what the farmers did is that they would go to a particular area, they would clear all the vegetation, cut all the trees down, burn the entire land and then start cultivating crops on that piece of land. Then after some years, maybe 3, 4 years, 5 years, 7 years, when the soil's fertility went down, when the soil's productivity went down, then the farmers would leave the place and then go to another place. Again, clear all the vegetation, cut all the trees, burn that land and then start cultivating the land again there. So when this happened, farmers went from place to place, place to place, place to place. What happened? Shifting cultivation was taking place. It's also called as slash and burn and juming also. Slash and burn because they cut everything down and they burn the land and then they start cultivating that area. So what happened when the farmers did this? Then a lot of the vegetation was destroyed. A lot of the forest was being destroyed, because of which the government have brought a stop to this practice. That is the shifting cultivation or slash and burn or juming. It's a practice in the northeastern states, okay, like Assam, Meghalaya, Manipur, Arunachal and so on. So this is how this cultivation is practiced. But now it's banned and farmers stay in a particular place and do their subsistence agriculture. Subsistence. In this subsistence agriculture, what the farmers do is that the farmers grow crops. The farmers grow crops in their own field using traditional tools, and whatever they grow in the field, the family members who have grown the crops consume it themselves. So in subsistence agriculture, farmers grow crops mainly for their own consumption. Crops are grown in the field using traditional tools and methods, and whatever they grow, they consume it themselves. That is termed as subsistence agriculture. Now what are the features of subsistence agriculture? See, the farms are very small, traditional tools and methods are used in the practice of agriculture, then farming method is very traditional, and yield per hectare is not very high. The yield is not very high because traditional methods are applied in the field. So farms are very small in the subsistence agriculture. Traditional tools are used, traditional methods are used, the yield is not very high. See? And whatever crops they grow in the field, the family members consume and sells. Now we have the third one, that is intensive. Intensive agriculture. Now what is intensive agriculture? Intensive agriculture means growing crops very intensely in the small area. Because the lands are very small, especially in urban areas, the lands are very small. And they become big because the lands are very small. What happens? The farmers will try to get maximum output from that small piece of land. So therefore, they will intensely cultivate their area and try to get maximum output. That is called as intensive agriculture. Okay. Intensive agriculture, once again, I would like to repeat, is that cultivating crops in a small area and the farmers try to get maximum output from the field. Intensive agriculture. Now, what is extensive? Let's see next one. Extensive. Extensive agriculture. Extensive agriculture basically is growing crops extensively. Growing crops extensively, that means on a huge piece of land. The lands are very big in the extensive agriculture. And machines are used. See, the production is huge, much more because of the size of land that they have cultivated. But then there are some drawbacks also as well in this. So let's see some of the features here. Extensive agriculture is a practice of agriculture on a very big piece of land. Machines are used in place of labor. See, because of shortage of labor, machines are used. Then what happens is yield per hectare is low, and because personal care cannot be given. Yield per hectare is very low because personal care cannot be given. But in overall production, the production is very high. Overall production is very high because of the size of the land that there has been cultivated. But if you look in the minute aspect, what happens? The yield per hectare is low because personal care cannot be given to the cannot be given to the crops in the field. Then it is practiced in the Tarai regions of northern India, and when the soil loses its fertility, the field is left bare so that the soil can rejuvenate itself. So when the soil loses its fertility, the land is left fallow so that the soil can again regain its fertility. So these are some of the aspects of extensive agriculture. Another thing is that only single crops are grown in the extensive agriculture. Lands are very big, only one crop is grown at a time. If you see the subsistence type, if you see the intensive type of agriculture, we have different crops growing at the same time. We grow different crops. But in extensive agriculture, what happens? Single crop is grown at a time. Okay, now let's go to the major features of intensive agriculture. What are the major features of intensive agriculture? Number one is that the type of agriculture, size of the field is generally small because of the population pressure. I told you, in intensive agriculture, because it's practiced in the urban areas where the lands are very big, where the lands are very small. In big towns and cities where the lands for cultivating the field is very small. See, is there. The farmers try to get maximum output. They will intensely cultivate the area. That's why it's called intensive agriculture. See? Yeah, so as I was saying, features of intensive agriculture, individual holdings are very small, and then what happens is cultivation is done with great expense and energy. So that whatever they grow on the field, small piece of land, they can get maximum output. So these are some of the points we have to keep in mind regarding intensive agriculture. Now let us go and see the next one, that is commercial. We have the next one, that is commercial agriculture. Can I just cut this out? Commercial agriculture. Okay. Commercial agriculture is basically growing crops for commercial purpose, mainly to earn profit. Unlike the subsistence agriculture, where the crops are grown for their own consumption. But in this, what happens is the crops are mainly grown for the sale in the market. The lands are very big and machines are used and the output is also much more, because of which they are sold in the market and then they earn profit. So commercial agriculture is mainly grown for commercial purpose. That means to earn profit for the farmers. Now there are two types. One is the plantation agriculture, and the other one is mixed agriculture. So commercial agriculture can be of two types. One is plantation agriculture and the other one is mixed agriculture. What is plantation agriculture? Now plantation agriculture is basically growing of a single crop on a large estate. Plantation agriculture means growing a single crop on a large estate. Now the crops which are grown on the large estates or large area are mainly grown with technical know-how. That means skilled laborers are used. Anyone cannot work in these fields. They need to be skilled. Skilled labor is required, technical know-how, modern techniques. All these are applied when growing crops in the plantation fields. That means skilled labor, scientific methods. It requires a large capital investment. Plantation fields require huge capital investment. They require skilled labor, scientific methods, technical know-how. All these are very important aspects of our plantation agriculture, whereby then the crops which are grown are sold in the market and huge profit is earned by the farmers. Crops like tea, coffee, coconut, spices, rubber. These are all the examples of plantation agriculture. Crops are grown mainly for profit. Okay, then let's go to next one that is mixed farming. Now in mixed farming, what happens is the farmers grow crops but at the same time rear animals. They keep animals there. They have poultry, chickens growing, cattle are kept. Different types of cattle are kept in the farms. So when this is practiced together, it is called as mixed farming. It involves growing of crops and at the same time rearing cattle on the same land. Besides cultivation, other occupations like cattle rearing, poultry, dairy farming, etc. are practiced. Crop rotation is common practice as it maintains the fertility of the soil. That means in mixed farming, we have crops are grown and at the same time the farmers rear animals in the field. Rear animals, whereby we have a combination of growing crops and at the same time keeping animals. So when this is done together, then we say mixed farming, mixed agriculture. But in plantation agriculture, only one crop is grown at a time. Single crop is grown. Skilled labor is used. Scientific methods are applied. Technical know-how is required. Large capital investment is required. But here, the farmers grow crops at the same time they keep cattle. And this is practiced together. It is called as mixed farming. Okay. It provides a good return to the farmers. Besides the crops, when selling the crops also, at times even the cattle that they have kept also will generate revenue for the farmers, whereby they earn income from both ways. So this is how it is done in the mixed farming. So I guess I would like to end this chapter right now here, dear students. And we have come to the end of this chapter as well. And I do hope that you will revise this lesson, whatever I have taught, and please do the revision of this chapter, do the 10 years questions as well, or 7-8 years questions of the previous years in your Excel notebook as well from this chapter. And till then, we'll meet for the next chapter. Please be safe, do your studies regularly, and have a good day. Thank you so much.